Hello, everybody. Some students were wondering about this question. How do you keep rolling 3 dice until you get all ones? So the pseudocode for this would look as follows. We'll have 3 integer variables for the results of the 3 die. We're going to do rolling the 3 die over and over and over again while it's not true that all of them are 1. So that's the kind of thing we're going to do. Here's the right way to think about it, or here's a really useful way to think about it. The original question says keep rolling the dice until you get all ones. So this condition of getting all ones is the stopping condition. If it's true that we have all ones, that's when we want to stop rolling them. So if we were going to write all 3 are equal to 1, that's how we'd write it. We'd say A is 1, and also B is 1, and also C is 1. But this is kind of the opposite of what we want to say. Because if the while condition here is true, that means we want to keep looping. So this says keep rolling the dice while it's true that all 3 equal 1. We want to say keep rolling the dice while it's not true that all 3 equal 1. So the best thing to do is write the stop condition, because that's relatively easy to think about. Put parentheses around them and say keep looping while it's not true that we've hit the stop condition. Right? As long as it's not true that we want to stop, that's when we want to keep going. So that's the idea. However, some students did the following. They wrote, keep looping while A isn't 1 and B isn't 1 and C isn't 1. Because that feels like it might be the same thing. So let me write them out in English, and then we'll talk about how you can think clearly about why those aren't actually the same condition. So this one up here, the not applies to this entire condition. So we'd say, keep rolling the dice while it's not true that all 3 of them are 1. This one down here, we'd say, keep rolling the dice while all 3 of them aren't equal to 1. So hopefully when you think about it that way, you can come up with an example that kind of illustrates why these are different. So let's say A is 1 and B is 1 and C is 2. So first decide, would we want, if this is how the die rolls came out, would we want it to continue to loop? And I think the answer is yes, because we want to keep rolling as long as I didn't get all ones. Here I didn't get all ones, because one of them is a 2. Okay, so let's evaluate each piece of this one at a time. And this is actually a skill the AP test is going to have you do. So is it true that A doesn't equal 1? The answer is no, because A does equal to 1. So that would be false. And then here, is it true that B is not equal to 1? That's also false, because B equals 1. Is it true that C isn't equal to 1? Well, that part's true, because here I've got C equals 2. Okay, but is it true? So false and's true. What's all that put together? In order for this whole thing to be true, you would need all 3 of these to be true, because that's what and means in Java. And means that both of these, that the whole thing is only true if both of them is true. I read it in English as saying and also. So A not equal to 1 and also B not equal to 1 and also C not equal to 1. Only if they're all true at the same time is the entire statement true. Okay, so we get false. What does false mean? False means that we are not going to keep looping. It means we're going to stop. But remember, we want to keep looping because not all 3 of them equal to 1. So that's a kind of a slower way you could evaluate and see what's going on. Is you would come up with a test case. You think, what do I want it to do? You evaluate each piece one at a time until you get a final answer, and then think, what does it mean for my code? Does this mean I'm going to keep looping, or does this mean I'm going to stop? Just to show you that this one does work in the same way, let's think it through. So here, is it true that A equals 1? The answer is true. Is it true that B equals 1? The answer is true. Is it true that C equals 1? Here the answer is false. Okay, so what happens when we combine true and false? All 3 of those together are still false. But this not in the front is saying keep looping while it's not true that all of this. So if all of this was false, when I apply the not symbol to it, that gives us the logical negation. So the false would get turned into a true. If all of this had been true, applying not to it would turn it into false. So once I apply the not symbol here, that becomes true. What it means that this thing evaluated to true is that the while statement is true, so we're going to loop again. And that's exactly what we wanted to happen. We want to keep looping because all three of these aren't 1 at the same time. So I hope that was helpful. Like I said, practically speaking, I think a great way to approach these problems is think, what's my stopping condition? Write that out. And then say, keep looping as long as it's not true that my stopping condition is happening. But eventually you're going to need to be able to think your way through cases that are similar but not quite the same. And then it is helpful to be able to come up with a test case, evaluate the pieces, think about how they combine. All right, I hope this was helpful. Good luck on the summer homework. Definitely appreciate all the effort you're putting in.